აქციების შესახებ, როგორც თბილისში, ასევე ბათუმში, როცა გამოხატვის გამო, მათ შორის ცარიელი ფურცლების ხელში დაჭერის გამო, ან კარვის გაშლისთვის ადამიანები დააკავეს, მათ შორის ცნობილი უფლებადამცველები. თუ ნახეთ ეს კადრები, ეს გვაინტერესებს, ასევე ხომ ვიცით, გასულიყავით ამ აქციებზე, რომ თქვენი თვალით შეგეფასებინათ გამოხატვის თავისუფლების შეზღუდვის მასშტაბი.
So there are two elements. The first element is the freedom of expression and freedom of assembly. These are two key principles of any democratic country, and these are also two key principles on which European Union is built. So of course we have been watching those events with concern, and we hope that both freedom of assembly and freedom of expression will be fully respected in Georgia, which is a democratic country. And your second question is about me. I am a foreign diplomat, and of course I have to fully respect the laws of the host country. And the second element means that I cannot engage in any activity that might be seen or understood as supporting any political movements inside Georgia. This is not my role, and this is off limits for me. As I see it from my limited experience in Georgia, there are over 100 TV channels, Georgia-wide. I think more than 20 of them have full country coverage. I know that there are people who are demonstrating on the streets, expressing different views. And of course, right to peaceful demonstration is absolutely fundamental in any democratic country. I know that there are different opinions, different expressions, and I'm very happy that Georgia has such a vibrant civil society. Once we finish this interview, we will have a meeting with civil society representatives from Batumi and other regions here in western part of Georgia. And from our point of view, civil society is a fundamental pillar of any democratic country.
მინდა გითხოთ რის მაჩვენებელია ეს თქვენთვის, როცა ცარიელი ფურცლების გამო ან კარვის გაშლისთვის აკავებენ ადამიანებს, განსაკუთრებით მაშინ, როცა კანდიდატის სტატუსის მიღებას ელოდება საქართველო.
You are right that in this crucial period we desperately need good news coming from Georgia. It will be for 27 EU member states at the highest level, at the highest political level, at the level of presidents and prime ministers, to decide about next steps when it comes to EU-Georgia relationship.
საინტერესოა ასევე თქვენი შეფასება დემარშთან დაკავშირებით, როგორც ვიცით, ფრენების აღდგენის შემდეგ რუსეთთან ევროკავშირის ელჩებს ჰქონდათ დემარში. გააჩვენა თქვენთვის საქართველოს ხელისუფლების რეაქცია ამ დემარშის შემდეგ და თქვენ რა მოლოდინი გქონდათ? ზოგიერთმა დეპუტატმა საქართველოს ისიც კი თქვა უცნობიდან, რომ ეს დემარში კარგი შესაძლებლობაა, რომ აუხსნათ ჩვენი პოლიტიკაო.
Of course, it was a very good opportunity to meet, a very good opportunity to discuss, and very good opportunity to present arguments from both sides. We, as European Union, regret the decision of the Georgian government to accept restoration of direct flights with Russia. This is precisely the opposite of what we, as 27 EU member states, have decided. We have taken a very courageous decision to stop all flights between European Union member states and Russia, of all kinds, of all airlines, of all types of aircraft, because we want to isolate Russia. We want Russia to pay the price for its absolutely outrageous behavior in Ukraine, and we want to change the behavior of the Russian government. We want this war to stop, and to stop as quickly as possible. Unfortunately, restoration of direct flights between Georgia and Russia goes into opposite direction. If I may add, Georgia, when entering into association agreement with European Union has committed itself to align as much as possible with foreign policy of the European Union. By applying last year for EU membership, we would expect Georgia to align with our policy. This is why I was asked by 27 EU member states, because it was 27 EU member states that have agreed the terms of reference for the démarche, to pass this message to Georgian authorities.
რამედ შეიძლება რუსეთთან ფრენების გამო მოსალოდნელია თორე სანქციები ავიაციის მიმართულებით მათ შორის ან ხელისუფლების რომელიმე წარმომადგენლის მიმართ.
We have the toughest possible sanctions regime against Russia. Why? Because we want to pressure Russia in order to change its unacceptable, unimaginable, brutal, repressive behavior in Ukraine. We want to stop the war. We have agreed by unanimity of 27 member states, 10 sanction packages against Russia. The discussions about the 11th package of sanctions is ongoing. But sanctions is a double-edged sword, because there are also consequences for ourselves, for our member states, who sometimes pay very heavy price for those sanctions. Those sanctions also affect member states, economy of member states, tourism, and so on and so on. Nevertheless, we have decided that we have no other choice but to introduce sanctions against Russia in order to isolate Russia, in order to pressure Russia to stop its brutal war in Ukraine. And my final point, it is very important to understand that all our sanctions are decided by unanimity of 27 member states. What does it mean? That every single EU member state needs to agree for sanctions to apply. And we would like our partners, including our closest partners, like Georgia, to work as much as possible in the same direction. We understand the circumstances, we understand the vulnerability of Georgia, we understand that there are a lot of trade links and trade ties between Georgia and Russia. We do not expect Georgia to pay a very heavy price for all of this, but at least we would like to see Georgia not to go in a precisely the opposite direction of our decision taken by unanimity by 27 EU member states. And since you asked me a very precise questions about EU sanctions and Georgia, I can inform you that I'm not aware of any discussions among 27 member states of any kind of sanctions targeting Georgia or Georgian companies.
როგორ შეიძლება ისახოს კანდიდატის სტატუსთან მიმართებაში ეს გადაწყვეტილება რუსეთთან ფრენების აღდგენაზე?
This is the question that unfortunately I'm not in a position to say. The decision about further steps when it comes to EU-Georgia relationship, including the decision on the candidate status, will be taken by 27 EU member states at the highest level, at the highest political level, by presidents and prime ministers. It's up to every individual member state to decide if and to what extent this decision about the restoration of direct flights between Georgia and Russia will impact the whole process. Unfortunately, I'm not in a position to answer your question. I don't want to speculate.
მთავარი საკითხი, რაც ყველა საინტერესოს საქართველოში ეს არის კანდიდატის სტატუსის მიღება. ირაკლი კობახიძე საქართველოს სამეზობარი ამბობს, რომ 50-50-ია ამ დროისთვის მივიღებთ ვარა ჩვენ კანდიდატის სტატუსს. თქვენ დაკვირვებით რამდენია დიდია ხა ამის შანსი, რომ საქართველოს მიიღოს კანდიდატის სტატუსი?
I usually try not to comment on comments of others, but let me break this rule and to say that actually I agree with the chairman of the Georgian Dream when he is saying that the chances are 50-50. And this is why it is so important that in the remaining months till the publication of the enlargement report, and especially till the final decision of EU heads of state and government at the end of this year, there is as much progress as possible on the implementation of the 12 priorities, and it is as much needed as possible that there are only good news coming out of Georgia. Because every single issue can tip the balance one way or another. We are in a key moment, and this key moment requires maximum attention and maximum responsibility from everyone involved, from the government, from the opposition, from civil society, from everyone, in order to make sure that Georgia succeeds and gets candidate status December this year, and we, as the EU delegation in Georgia, and myself as EU ambassador in Tbilisi, will do everything we can in order to make it happen.